So all of your work that you've done from chapter 4 to this chapter, when you are done with this exercise, you'll submit this into the assignments area. So let's get the last exercise in. Starting on page 8-39, we're going to start developing our stairs and railings. If you look on page 8-39 at the top, you're going to see the entire stair assembly that we're going to be making in the lobby area for our law office. And then when we are done making the stair, we're going to have to come up to the second floor. And since the stairs will come up in this area and then break off in this direction and then stop short of the floor for the second floor, we're going to need to modify this floor to account for that. Also along the way, we're going to be updating this stairs assembly so that the stringer on the sides of the stair match up with the floor type for the second floor so that they architecturally work well together visually and likely installation wise. So getting started on 8-39, on level 1, we're going to start by drawing some detail lines so that we can orient the location of our stair and not just start throwing it in and guessing where it's going to be going. Please meet me on page 8-40 where you're going to be seeing a bunch of detail lines that we're going to draw. The detail line tool is a very commonly used one. If we go to the annotate tab, you'll see that there's going to be a button for detail line tool up here. I actually recommend that because you'll use this often in your process for Revit, I would recommend right-clicking on it and then adding it to the quick access toolbar to bring it to the very top, which when you do so will create an odd graphical issue where you need to minimize and then maximize Revit again. And then that will make it a pop-up in the quick access toolbar area. So with that detail line tool going in either of those senses, we're going to get into the line work that we see on page 8-40. I'm going to start inside of the corner of this file room in the top left, and then I'm going to make my way over and down, getting in the lines as best as I can, and then just like when I'm modifying walls, I'm going to make the adjustments to those locations after I've drawn them in. So as mentioned on the first page, we're going to get that detail line tool going. The line style that we want to draw with, which you can set in the ribbon or down in the properties palette, is going to be the line style called hidden. So with hidden going, I'm going to start drawing in my lines. So just visualizing where this line work is going to start inside of this file room, I'm just going to start drawing the line work, and they will give us dimensions. So I'm going to try and draw the line work, like for example down here inside of the center of the wall, and then start it in the corner of the room. And then I'm just going to get these items in, and then extend and draw lines as necessary in order to get the general shape. I'm also going to try and not draw concurrent lines, which is where you take a line like this and then you draw another line like this, thus breaking it up into two pieces, because in most conditions it's going to be nicer for you to trim lines to each other because then they'll snap to midpoints and other location lines a little bit easier. And then I'll continue to get that line work in. So I'm going to extend this line all the way over to the end of the inside of the workroom behind the reception desk. Draw some more line work in, down, getting towards near the center of the wall, which we'll need to adjust later anyway. And then up, and then there's another vertical one in here somewhere. I'm likely going to end up moving this room tag because it's going to be in my way. And then, I know I just said that drawing concurrent lines are the typical way to do it, but this is going to be a condition where we actually do want to break up some line pieces so that we can hit midpoints of certain lines. So for example, with this project, this line right here, we're going to eventually need to know the center of it so that we can draw the center of the stairs up it. So this will be a condition when we are going to draw a non-concurrent line before we go around and draw the rest of them. This will be at a 45-degree angle or 135 reciprocal. Make it approximately the right width, have it come up, and then come generally in line with the line work that it's going to eventually meet. Wrapping up the end of the stair work line right here, we'll have in all the line work that we're going to be using. Very much in an incorrect location, but we've got all the line work we need. So I am going to grab this tag, and I'm going to pull it over so that we don't have to deal with that being in our way. And then I'm going to adjust the dimensions for all of these line work locations. Starting back over here on the side, we can see that this vertical line inside of the file room is 6 inches away from the center line of this wall, also the grid line. So with this line selected, I'm going to adjust this temporary dimension to make those changes. If throughout this process, when you are clicking on lines, your temporary dimensions are not going to the correct location, you have two options. You can grab the grips at the ends of the temporary dimension locations witness lines, and you can drag them to the correct spot, possibly needing to click tab and letting go. Or you can click on those grips and it will cycle between the options that are inherent in those areas so that you can get the temporary dimension in the correct spot like we have here. If that's still not working for you, although we're going to be covering a little bit in the future, I am going to let you know that you can come up to Annotate tab and get that align dimension going, or you can get it going up in the Quick Access toolbar as well, and that will give you more control to be able to select on the items you want and still have the control to be able to adjust elements to the location that you want them. Once you move them, you can either move them out of the way or hide them or delete them, as we will not use them again. This lower line down here that's inside of the wall on both sides are going to be 2 inches away from the southern face of the wall. So this is a perfect example of the temporary dimension not dimensioning what I want to. So I'm going to grab this grip and pull it down here. I want to go on the face of the wall and it's not automatically snapping to that. So I'm going to click tab once and that will light up the face of the wall, thus giving me the temporary dimension for this location. And I will adjust that to 2 inches. Now this width is a little tricky. They don't tell us the distance from the grid line to this line, and they don't tell us the distance from here to here with a temporary or dimension tool. But they do tell us that this is a 5'2" wide stair. So if we click on this line on the horizontal part on the top, and we ensure that it is referencing the lower hidden line referencing where our stair will be going, this distance will need to be that 5'2" wide. That will take care of the length all the way down, so we shouldn't have to worry about this distance until we make adjustments to this hidden line location. Making our way right, this distance is not provided to us from here to here, so we're going to have to see if we have some other references that we can do. Many of these vertical lines have not been located, so let's do the two that have been located and then use the dimensions to move them into their correct position. Going to the very far right, this vertical line is 6 inches away from the grid line, so I can make that adjustment to 6 inches. And then the only other one that they provide to us is this vertical line is doing that same situation where it is 2 inches from the inside face of this wall. So if I come to the temporary dimensions and adjust that so I can get my 2 inches, I can now select this line and change it to the 2 inches away from the inside of this wall. Now I can use that line as a reference so that I can locate the other lines, because now I know that this vertical line is 5'7" and 7/8 inch from this vertical line that we just adjusted. So I could select this vertical line over here and then change this to the 5'7" and 7/8 inch. And then I could come over to this vertical line and change it to the 7'4". Again, all of these numbers I'm getting on page 8-40. Last vertical line over here on the right side is also 7'4" from this line. So I can select this vertical line here and change its temporary dimension from the line to the left to 7'4". Moving to this horizontal line down here inside of the wall, we're going to need that 2 inches again from the southern face of the wall. So I'm going to move my temporary dimensions as necessary to get those locations and change this to the 2 inches. Remember to type inches for any inch movements because Revit will assume feet. So if the lines are moving a little too much, just make sure you're putting in that value. Now, because moving the location and length of these lines are going to be a little difficult, I'm actually going to choose to delete all of this line work down here because I think it will be easier to try and actually draw it accurately as we're putting them in. But if you want to get in temporary dimensions or the align dimension tool and dimension those locations, you could move them into the location as they're required by the book. But I'm going to draw them in knowing that I have a lot of our lines in our correct positions. And so when I draw the dimensions as they are shown on page 8-40, it'll be a little easier. So I'm going to start from this corner and I'm going to come down the 1'6" that is listed in the book. I'm going to go at a 45-degree angle or 135-degree angle, and then I'm going to tell the line to be 11 foot 11 inches, and then go the 45 degrees, the width of the stair as listed as 4 foot wide in the center of this shape, coming back up the 11 foot 11, and then closing off at the corner here. Coming up here, I'm going to go on the right side. You'll see that there's a dimension of 1 foot 4, but that is actually from the face of the wall, not the corner of our line work that we drew, because the dimension is showing that from here to here is 2 inches, and then we go an additional 1 foot 4 from there. So I'm going to hover in this area, and then I'm going to pull my mouse downwards until it is trying to place it on the face of the wall, but aligned with this vertical line to ensure that I'm starting at the correct location, and then bring it down the 1 foot 4. Because we do not need to break this line work up, I'm now going to use the trim tool under modify, and I'm going to trim this line to this line. Although it's not listed in the book, in this chapter we're not going to need to reference our room separator lines to know where the square foots are, so I'm going to select these 4 room separator lines, and I'm going to temporarily hide them. Down here with the glasses, you can click Hide Element for the 4 elements you've selected, and they will be temporarily hidden. When we're done, we can come back to the glasses and click Reset, and it'll bring them back. But this will clean up our view a little bit to make things easier to draw our stairs. Once you have this line work in, and it fits the dimensions as required on page 8-40, we can get our stairs going. It is going to be important that these 2 lines are 2 separate pieces of line work. So if you were being efficient, which is great, but not necessarily in this case, please ensure that these 2 lines are 2 separate line works. Otherwise you will have trouble drawing your stairs today. So let's get that stair tool going. Architecture tab, stair tool. And the way stairs draw in Revit are actually fairly easy for the complexity of stairs themselves. Revit does a pretty good job of trying to simplify it when you are drawing your assembled stair tool. Just like with a wall, when you click on one point and another point, it is going to draw the item that you want based on the constraints that you set in your properties. The thing that's different about stairs is when you have changes in direction with your stair, it will show you how many stairs you need in order to get to the second level in this case, but you can end the stair halfway through and then continue to draw it, and it will create a landing between those 2 locations, and we will be doing that today. So with the stair tool going, ensure that you've got the assembled stair, 7-inch max riser, 11-inch tread, and then we're going to set the railing that's going to be going on this stair. So come up to the railing tool on the very far right side here, and then under the default railing that it is going to place, we're going to change it to guardrail pipe. We also want to choose that the railing is going to sit on the stringer on the sides of the stairs instead of placing on the treads on the actual part of the stair that you'll be stepping on. So with guardrail pipe set for railing and the stringer position, go ahead and click OK. Ensure that the constraints for the stair are telling it that it's going from level 1 to level 2. If you started the stair tool in the level 1 floor plan, it should have set that by default. Note that it's telling us that based on the math of the stairs that we've set it to calculate how it's going to draw up our stairs, it is going to require 23 risers. Now in our options bar, we're going to set how the stair is going to act and what part of the stair we're going to draw. Location line, we do want to have run center. That's where it's going to be important that we're able to start in the midpoint of these lines. Offset set to 0 from our line work. But the stairs, as mentioned in the diagram, are actually 4 foot wide in one location and then will eventually become 5 foot 2 inches wide in the upper locations. So since we're going to be starting at the bottom of the stair, which is going to be down here in this midpoint, and then coming up, we're going to be starting with a 4 foot wide stair. So please set that in your options. And then let's start drawing our stair. Our stair first run is going to start down here in the bottom left midpoint, and then it is going to end up here in this top midpoint of this diagonal line. When you do your first click and then your second click, it will seem like it's ending the stairs, but the stair tool is still going because we still do have more risers to go before we can actually reach the second floor. The upper stair run is actually set to 5'2", as we noted when we were adjusting these line widths. So come up here to your options and adjust the actual run width to be 5'2". Ensure that automatic landing is set, because now when we start the stair again, it will create a landing in the middle. So we started the stair down here, and then we ended the stair up here, and now we're going to once again start the stair right here, and then we're going to end this stair in the middle of this run point right here. When you do that fourth click, it is not only going to make that second run, but it's going to assume the size of the landing that we're going to need for this stair. Now, although we appreciate that Revit did assume that we need a landing here, it did not make it the correct width as indicated by this line work that we have drawn. So please select the landing, grab one of the grips that adjusts the size of the landing while you're still creating it, and drag that over until you get to that line work that you drew inside of the wall. I'm going to have to zoom in because it's trying to snap to just the midpoint of the wall, and I want to ensure that it is going to that line work that we spent so much time getting in the correct position. So if we just had a singular directional stair that was just going up, going onto a landing, and then coming up to the second floor here, we would pretty much be done with drawing the stair. But we are creating a condition that you see on page 8-45, and like we saw at the beginning of the chapter, where you can come up these singular set of run-up stairs, get to this landing, and then go either left or right. So as of right now, it is assuming with these stringers and eventually with the railing that it is going to just wrap around in this direction, but we actually want this run to copy over to this side. So please select this run that we just made in the previous step, and then we are going to do a draw mirror axis to mirror this run over the point that we over the line that we draw. So with the run selected and with draw mirror axis selected, we're going to want to get the midpoint of this landing. So I'm going to hover up to the top here. You're going to see a couple different midpoints coming up. We're going to want the midpoint of the entire landing, which should be easy to reference if you see that it is lighting up the whole landing and not parts of the stringer. But also, this line work is always going to be centered when it is drawn automatically for you for landings and stairs. So if we hover over the top area here, ensuring that we're fairly lined up with that line work, you can click and then hover down or up, and it will create a mirror axis that this is going to flip over and copy. You'll definitely know if you clicked on the right spot, because this landing is going to end exactly where our line work on the right side that we drew is. We now have our stair drawn. So come up and press the checkbox, and it's going to complain because it's having a hard time figuring out exactly how to draw the railing, even though it did. Now let's go to level 2. Go over to the project browser and open up level 2. And we need to fix this floor as I mentioned before. Currently, if you were to walk up the stairs and get to the top, you would just fall down to the first floor because there would be no location for you to step onto for our second floor. Our second floor exists. It has been drawn for us, but we need to adjust it so that it will accept those stairs. So with that second floor stair floor selected, either double click or come up to edit boundary to change the new location of the boundary of where the walls are going to go. The best visual in the book for this is on page 8-46 at the top. You can see how we're going to jog this corner over and over here as well. I'm going to start by drawing some line work from the edge of the stair over and then going on the front of the stair. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side, ensuring that the line work is lining up with the stair. And then now I can use the trim tool to clean this up. We're creating a chamfered inner corner here, and then when you're done, your floor line work will look like this. Once it looks like that, you'll press check, and then we will not attach the floors. Now we currently have railings coming up our stairs automatically created for us, because when we were drawing the stair, we came over to the railing area and told it to assume that, but now we have an unsafe condition here where the second floor has an opening because the stair did not assume to add railings on the floor where it's meeting. So we're just going to draw railings by themselves. Railings can come with stairs and ramps automatically for you, or you can come to the Architecture tab and under the Circulation panel, get the Railing tool going, and that will go right into a sketch mode. Ensure that you've got guardrail pipe to match the stairs as the type for the handrail going. And then we'll start with this left side. You'll see that this handrail, the guardrail pipe, has a guardrail for the main area to protect people from falling off, and then there's a handrail that has been attached to it on the side due to the properties that the way that the railing was set up. If we want our new railing to line up with the existing railing on the stair, this line work that we're drawing needs to be lined up with the center of the main guardrail that was originally creating the shape of the railing for the stairs. So I'm going to click on the center point of the guardrail line work right here, bring it over to the edge of the stairs here, and because learning how to draw this tool is a little bit more important than us getting everything in the exact same spot, just kind of get your handrail over here as best you can, draw it down, meeting to the center point of the wall, and then coming over from that point. Railings need to be linear and connected and uninterrupted. So, although we do need more railings over here, we cannot draw the line work for the railing as it would not connect those two pieces. So once you are done with these three, go ahead and press checkbox. You'll see that it will line up the guardrails with each other, but it put the handrail on the wrong side. And to fix that, we could just click this flip arrow, and then it will put the handrail to line up with the handrails and the guardrail to line up with the guardrails. Please do that for this right side as well. So I'm going to get that railing tool going. I'm going to line up with the guardrail. I'm going to come over to the edge. I'm going to also make sure my chain's going so I don't have to keep restarting the tool. And then I'm going to bring it down to the edge of the wall. When I press checkbox, since we drew it from right and down, and Revit likes drawing clockwise, it actually automatically put the handrail on the correct side. The next step will be adjusting the handrail to have a profile on it so that we can have the flooring side profile match the stringer that are on the stairs. If you look on page 8-47, at the top on figure 8-3.12, you'll see that there is a thick profile on the sides of the stairs acting as the stringer, but then when it reaches the floor, there's a very thin floor, and those two profiles aren't matching each other. We want to carry that thick profile on the sides of the stairs all the way around the floor system. So we're going to need to make a little profile. This will be our first custom family, and it's a great introduction to it because it's a very simple one. So we're going to go up to File, and we're going to go to New, Family, and then the new type of family we're going to make is a profile. So we're going to scroll down to the profile area. Just do simple profile, not one of the special profile types, just profile, and then click Open. That's going to create a new family project. So we are now outside of the law firm. We are in a separate entity. And let's create that profile. We're going to come up. We're going to see that there's a lot of different tools available to us because we are editing a family and not an architectural project. So we're just going to start our line work. And we're going to draw the 4 lines as we see on page 8-47 on the bottom right under figure 8-3.13. So I'm going to start at the top intersection location. I'm going to go over an inch. I'm going to come down 1 foot, 2 3/16 of an inch. I'm going to go over 2 inches as that'll be the total width. Come back up, matching up with that horizontal line, and then coming over. And now let's save it. We'll come up and do File Save As, and then save this with your project. It will be called Railing Stringer. And then when you're done saving it, we can load it into our project. I'm going to do load and close because we're not going to be coming back here and making any modifications to it. And then now it'll be in your project. You won't see anything happen because it's just now an available profile in your project. So let's make that modification to the railing on the second floor. These railings that we drew are where we're going to be adding that profile on the bottom of them so that we can get the condition that we see on page 8-49, figure 8-3.15. And following the steps on page 8-48 at the top, we're going to edit this guardrail pipe and we're going to duplicate it because we're going to make a new railing called guardrail pipe with stringer, because not all of our railing conditions with guardrail pipe will we want this to occur. For example, the stairs, those already have a stringer. So with this new type created, we're going to edit the rail structure. Anything horizontal in a railing is typically going to be under rail structure, and anything vertical in your railing structure is going to be under baluster. So under railing structure non-continuous, we're going to edit that. We're going to insert a new row, which will become essentially our 8th rail. We're going to call it stringer. It will sit 1.5 inches above its profile location. And then this is where we set that profile that we just made. So under the profile list, you should see a profile called railing stringer. And then I'm going to click apply and OK and apply and OK. Now ensure that this left railing is still set to that guardrail pipe with stringer as we set, but now change the east railing to be that same type as well. Last thing that we're going to do with the stairs, specifically the railing on the stairs, is we're going to create a more accessible and easier to use condition for the edges of our stair railings. If you look on page 8-51 in the very top right under figure 8-3.20, you will see how we're going to modify that top rail. First, we need to get a good view of it though. We need to be able to see an elevation or section of the railings in order to more easily edit the profiles. So I'm going to get our section tool going up here in the quick access toolbar, or under the view tab, section tool right here. And then I'm going to draw a section that is parallel with the handrail. If you remember from earlier, this was set at a 45-degree angle or 135-degree angle. So if you draw the section at 45 degrees as well, you'll be able to get that parallel section. We only want to see what we need to, just like when we were working with the curtain walls. So as long as the length of your section encompasses the entire lower run of the stairs, you'll just need to adjust the far clip to where it only shows that one part of the stair that we need, which is just the right side railing for now, and then we'll adjust the left side in the same way with a separate section tool. The less you see in your view, the less confusing all the line work will be. Now let's open up that section. I'm going to double click on the section, which will open it up like this. I may even give myself a little bit of length left on the left here because we will be creating an extension over here. So I'm going to select on the crop region, grab this grip and drag it to the left. And then in the section, we're going to need to adjust the railing. The railing is actually broke up into multiple pieces. So although when you click on the railing, it appears that the entire thing will just light up as one group, we actually have the main railing assembly, which is developed in the rail and baluster placement structures. But what we actually want to adjust is the top rail, which acts on its own accord inside of the railing tool. So we will want to hover over the upper railing and then click Tab until we just have the upper top rail selected on its own. When you get a hold of that, go up to the Edit Rail button, and then you will see the line work that is creating the top rail for us. This is what we're going to be adding to. With us editing the top rail, we're going to want to edit its path, and then we're going to want to use the straight line tool to add the line work that you see on the top of page 8-51. When we select the edge of the line work and click, we will want to ensure that when we're drawing the line work, it is lighting up this original line work to ensure that it is going to be concurrent with it. And then the length that we're going to want to draw will be an extra foot. So ensuring that the previous line work is lit up, and then using either graphical drawing, which is just moving until it says a foot, or drawing in the direction and doing a numerical draw by typing in 1 foot, please create another foot extension onto the existing top rail. After you've drawn that, you'll just be returning the top rail to come back down to the top of the stringer like this. Once you've drawn those two lines, you've modified the top rail as required, so we can press check, and then please repeat the same for the other side. I'm just simply going to take this section that we don't need anymore. I'm going to flip the direction that it is looking, and I'm going to drag it and reposition it up to where it's showing the railing on the other side, and then get that modification in. Open up the section, tab until I can select just the top rail, edit the rail, edit the path, start the Draw Straight Line tool, select the end of the top rail profile, come down the foot, ensuring that it is lighting up the original line profile, making sure that it goes a foot out, and then making it meet down where the top of the stringer for the stairs are. If that wasn't clear before, this big chunk right here in this view is the stringer, so that's where we're meeting with the top of it. And then we can check and allow the path to create. And now we've got our lower extensions in. Now we're going to create upper extensions. As a reference, if you look on page 8-52, the figure 8-3.22 at the top is going to show the square extensions that we're going to have at the top. This can be done essentially in any view, but I'm going to go back to the level 1 to ensure that I am selecting the right elements. And I'm on page 8-51. Let's create the railing type that we need that will have those extensions. So in the project browser, I'm going to scroll down to Families. I'm going to go down to Railings. And I'm going to open up Railing to find Top Rail Types. And in the Top Rail Types area, you will find the circular 1.5 inch, which is the type that we are using for our top rails. So in the top rail type, circular 1.5 inch in the project browser, I'm going to right click, I'm going to duplicate, and we're going to create the new type, which is going to be circular 1.5 inch with extensions for our top of our rails. And we're going to rename this circular 1.5 inch with extensions, and that will give us our new top rail type. Now this is actually not going to affect these railings that we have going down because these are not the ones that need to have the extensions. The ones that are going to have the extensions are actually the railings that are going to go on the back of our stairs, which we can easily see in level 2. So it'll be this handrail that we're going to be adjusting. So let's edit this. From guardrail pipe, we're going to edit it and we're going to duplicate it, and this will be guardrail pipe with extensions to match the profile that we're going to be adding. You'll see in the top rail area, you can change the type of the rail, currently set to circular 1.5 inch. We're going to want to adjust that to be the type that we just created, circular 1.5 inch with extensions. Now let's make this actually have the extensions. Instead of having to edit the profile and create this custom condition on our own by drawing line work, we can actually tell this top rail to change its type. So either selecting the top rail and editing its type, or going into the guardrail properties and then selecting on the type for the top rail, you'll get this dialog box specifically changing the top rail type for the circular 1.5 inch with extensions parameters. And in this area, we're going to want to change the extension from beginning and bottom to be a post style, as well as the extension on end and top. Both of these extensions will be a foot long, so make sure you change their lengths to 1 foot, and then that will create those extensions. Well, the very last detail we're going to add, as you can see on page 8-52 in the bottom right corner under figure 8-3.23, is we want to show that the handrails are going to need to attach to the guardrails and not just be floating and somehow attached. So please get a hold of just the handrail, which is the inner element on that upper piece. Edit its type. Don't worry about duplicating it because we are just affecting how the handrails are going to act on all conditions. And then change the supports family down here from none to support metal circular. Apply. Allow these items to double count themselves as necessary. Ignore these warnings by clicking OK, and then click OK. Once you have created that final condition, you've done all that is necessary for these stairs and railings. When you have completed chapters 4 through 8 to include the stairs and all the required parts of this exercise, you have completed Module 1A. You will submit one file, which is the file that you will save from this, which you can label as your last name, and then Module 1A, and then submit it under the assignments area for Canvas. You do not need to submit an individual file for each chapter. Simply just submit your work as you've done right now, and I will go back and check your work from Module 4 through Module 8 based on this one Revit file. Also ensure that you are not submitting any backup files, which are the files that you may see accumulating with the 0001 and 0002 at the end, which are just there to make sure that if your file becomes corrupt, you'll always have something to go back to. just submit the latest file that you've been saving for your Module 1A assignment.